Okay, today it's called Factoring Day B, but we're going to do a lot of review today of the stuff that you need to know for the test that's coming up on Friday. So let's start with one of these kind of problems. These are one of the toughest ones. If I say that one of the x-intercepts is at -1, one of the x-intercepts is at 5, can you, assuming it's a normal parabola without a stretch, can you write me the factored form for this thing? It looks like this. Then I want you to tell me its general form. Then I want you to tell me the axis of symmetry equation. And then I need the vertex. And the thing that makes it really tough is that this would be like an R3 question. And if you don't know one of the things, it's wrong. So you can't make any little mistakes. I think I told you verbally what these were. I think I said -1 and 5. Is that correct? Okay, good. All right, I'll pause for a second and see if you can answer this one. I'll understand if you can't yet. You know, maybe there's one part you don't get, but this is what we got to be good at by Friday. I'll pause for a second, take attendance. Okay, so let's get going on this. You should have said the equation was, since I said there was no stretch factor, there's no number in front. Now, if it's a -1 and a 5 are my two spots, it's x plus 1 and x minus 5. This is really important that you get. If this is a positive 5, it needs to go in here and make it equal 0. So another way to think of it is, if this is a positive 5, you'd have a -5 there because it's counterintuitive because it's on the inside. There's a lot of ways to think of it, but don't get those backwards in your head. The next one is general form. Generally, you just multiply it out. First, x squared. Outside is -5. Inside's +1 makes -4x. And the last make it -5. 4x, or x squared minus 4x minus 5. Raise your hand if you had that one right. Okay, awesome. And the next one's the equation of the axis of symmetry. We know it runs right exactly between these two. Somewhere in there. Where in there? Well, figure out an average of these two numbers. Average means add them together and divide by 2. 5 and -1 adds to 4. Divide by 2 makes 2. X equals 2. That is the equation of the axis of symmetry. X equals 2. You can't just say 2. You can't say a point either, like 2, 0. No, that'd be the spot right there. We want the whole line. All right. So then we got to figure out. Oh, smartboard's going crazy again. Something's wrong with it. I don't know. Okay. So let me get that out of there. We got to figure out where this vertex is. We know it's on this line somewhere down there. So where exactly? If you know that this x is 2, this is really, really important. Whenever they tell you something like x equals 2, you can just put it in the equation. Find out lots of good stuff. If x is 2, I can put a 2 in. Put a 2 in right there and right there. That makes 3 and -3. They'll always be opposites too. 3 and -3 makes a -9. So what does that mean? The vertex is got a -9 in it. The x of it is 2, -9. Now I know that's the hardest part right there, is knowing what to do with the axis of symmetry, this 2. You stick it in the equation, and you get your answer for that part of the vertex. Would anybody have had a perfect on this? That's about half the class. Okay, so then you're normal if you made a mistake, but you gotta learn from your mistakes. Is there any of these parts you want me to explain better? You want to explain it again? Be happy to re-explain anything you need. Still don't get why your answer is wrong. Tell me. Yes, sir. Or is it just, okay. All right. Okay. Let's try another one then. This is a whole different kind. This is where I give you an equation instead of giving you a couple of x-intercepts. And this equation x, let me make sure I've got the right one here. X minus 4 squared minus 1. I'd like you to tell me this, since that's vertex form, I'd like you to tell me general form. Yeah. I'd like you to tell me factored form. I'd like you to tell me the x-intercept, or intercepts, depends on what it's got. The y-intercept. And the vertex itself. Oh, one more thing. I want you to figure out f of 5. That's a lot of concepts all at once, but by now you should know how to do all of them. I'll pause for a second while you give that a shot. Okay, so here we go. We've exchanged papers. We're grading this puppy. General form, x minus 4, and then minus 2. So that's first outside, inside, last. Oh, sorry, minus 1. And then it's x squared minus 8x plus 16, and then he goes with the minus 1. So it's x squared minus 8x plus 15, because that has to go with that. Now, is that an equation yet? Is it? No. Y equals. How many of you would have lost 5% off your test right there? Or how many are grading one where they would have lost 5% off the test? That's all it takes. Warned you. That one with y equals, we only mark it 5% off instead of making you lose the entire full grade. All right. Next one, factored form. I'm not going to keep hitting you with that y equals, but just really good idea. Factored form, basically this thing factors. And it factors, this is not factored form because it's got that minus 1 at the end, so you can't use that. All right, it factors to, I think, x minus 3 and x minus 5. Okay. Y equals a 0 equals is even better. The x-intercepts then are x equals 3 and x equals 5. If they didn't put x equals, mark it wrong. The whole problem is going to be wrong for not saying x equals. Could they also say the x-intercepts are y is 0? So could they say 3 comma 0 and 5 comma 0? Yeah, that's a good way to do it too. Okay, the next one is the y-intercept. The y-intercept is where x equals 0. So you could plug in 0 into this right here and just solve it. That works. Or you could plug a 0 in right here and solve it. That works. Same thing. You could plug a 0 in right here. That's the smartest way because general form gives you the y-intercept right there. The y-intercept is where x is 0. So that was y equals 16, or if you want to say 0 comma 16, another good way to do it. The x-intercepts, by the way, hold on just a second, I never finished this. X equals 3 and x equals positive 5. Okay, now the vertex. Okay, something's wrong. Oh, I circled the wrong one. Look at this. The 16 goes with that 1 and makes a 15. Thank you. It's 15, not 16. Come on. Thank you for catching that. Do you see where my mistake was? These two together make 15, so that's the y-intercept. Okay, I would have got it wrong. Hey, I'm human too. Remember, on the front side and the back side, you can make one dumb mistake for free. Still get an A. So it's not that tough. It's just you make multiple dumb mistakes, cost you. Okay, the vertex. The vertex is the spot where, well, if you graphed this thing, you'd be able to find the vertex pretty easy. But it's right here too. Except it's not -4, -1. It's 4, -1. And then f of 5. If I stick a 5 into this equation, I would recommend sticking it into the original equation here. And so if I put a 5 in there, I would have 5 minus 4 makes 1. 1 squared is 1. 1 minus 1 is 0. So 5 gives me 0 for an answer. And do you remember how I said you should never have one that just has an answer of like 0 or whatever? This is the only one I can think of now. I forgot about this kind. f of 5 is 0. Now, I could say that I just figured out what y is and say y equals 0. Well, that would have been a good answer. But this one I would have accepted with just a 0, but it's the only one. All right. Now, if your person was perfect, let's give them a score like that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 things. Give them a score out of 6. If they had all 6 parts right, give them a 6, etc. Okay, give them a score. And let's get back to your own spot, please. So how many would have got a 6 out of 6? Raise your hand if you were a 6. I think you had a 6, didn't you? 1, 2, 3, 4 of you. All right. You're the only ones that would have got it right then. All the rest of you guys would have lost a whole grade. I'm trying to make a point. Just that you got to be really careful. You saw me make a mistake. I'm not saying you're a bad person if you made a mistake. It's just you're not going to get the A on this test unless you're really careful. How many of you picked up, you know what you did wrong? Raise your hand if you get what you did wrong. Okay, and if you don't, if you had some wrong and you don't get why, you need to ask me. I'll be glad to help you during work time. All right, we've covered most of the things that we needed to for review. Now let's just plain old factor some stuff. Actually, you know what? Your homework has so many questions on it. I am going to cut out a couple of them, but let's just jump right into your homework and start factoring there. That way I'm not making you do other extra practice problems. We have plenty on the homework. So everybody find the homework for today. And I'll tell you right now, I'm going to have you skip problems 9 and 11 and all the parts of them. So I'm going to pause for a second. Okay, it looks like this. Factoring worksheet B is the homework for today. And these first few are just plain old-fashioned factoring. And you get better at it the more you do it. You might say, well, I already know how to do it. Wouldn't you agree that golfers know how to putt? If you're a professional golfer, don't they really know how to putt already? But do they practice putting still? Yes, because you make dumb mistakes if you aren't in the groove, if you haven't practiced it a lot. Same thing could be argued for many, many things. If you are a basketball player, do you know how to shoot a free throw? Of course you know how. But the more you practice it, the smoother you will be, the less little putsy mistakes you will make at the crucial moment. So that's why I think it's good to practice this. But I did cut out a couple because it was a really lot of factoring. So anyway, let's just do the first one in case somebody's still not having learned factoring. You make 2 sets of parentheses. You see if there's anything that can be factored out of all of them, and there is nothing that comes out of all of them. That's called the GCF. There was no GCF. So then you say, well, it's got to be 2x and an x. And then you ask yourself what multiplies to 5. There's only 2 things, a 5 and a 1. I'm going to do them in 2 different colors so I can like rearrange them and stuff. Put a 5 here, plus 5, and a plus 1 here. Now I'll see if that worked. This is the most important part. Check to see you're right. You go outside and inside, and if that doesn't make that, you did something wrong. 5 times x is 5x, 2x times 1 is 2x, 5x and 2x makes 7x. I did it right. Okay? Now, this is really picky, but just to be extra sure, would you put a y equals at the beginning? I just would hate to have you forget that and lose 5% off your test grade. That's like a half a grade just for one dumb thing. So let's practice throwing in y equals on all these. All right, I think that's enough of the easy ones. Let's go to one. I'm pretty sure we have one in here that is a that's a 6C, I think, has a GCF in it. Everybody find problem 6C and see if you can factor out the GCF. Did you get 2 to come out? And then 7x squared plus 11x minus 6. That's the GCF part. Now you got to break it into 2 parentheses. You might say, but I found a different way. If your different way doesn't have a 2 out in front, you didn't factor it all the way. All right, so let's finish this. 7x and x. And then what makes a 6? I got 2 choices now. 1 and 6 or 2 and 3. Has somebody found it? It's easy. What was it? And there should be no debate. I can just check you. That says 9. That says minus 3. No, not 9. It's 14. 14 and then minus 3. 14x minus 3x is 11x. I know you're right now. Nice job. That's one of the beauties of a factoring test. This is happening on Friday. When you take your test, whenever it asks you to factor, you can know if you did it right. You just have to FOIL the thing back out, and you can know if you did it right. All right. And then we're almost done with advice, because from here I think you're going to be probably just fine. I'm going to scroll way down to the bottom of this assignment. And remember, you're skipping problems 9 and 11, but that leaves you, for instance, problem 10. All they're asking you to do on these are factor it. Do they actually say and find solutions in the directions? Yes. It says completely factor. Yep, it does not ask you to find the solutions. So that saves you a ton of time. All you'd have to do, of course, is once you have it factored, let's factor this one quick. For example, 2x and x. And the 5 is probably a 5 and a 1. So I'm going to try something. Plus 5 and a minus 1. Outside, inside. Does that make negative 3? No, that makes positive 3. So then I got to change this to a minus and this to a plus. And now I try it. Outside and inside make negative 5x and positive 2x makes negative 3x. Yay, I've got it right. And then to get the actual answers, if they asked you for it, you'd say x equals negative 1, and here you go 2x minus 5 equals 0, 2x equals 5, x equals 5 halves. These are the solutions, the roots, the zeros, the x-intercepts. But they didn't ask for it on today's worksheet, so yay, it's just factoring. All right, you have about 15, 17 minutes left, so use it. Hopefully, if you're really good at factoring, you're going to finish in class, because factoring goes pretty quick if you know what you're doing. That's all the help I have for you for today.